So let's go over some square roots first before we get going. If I gave you a problem, x squared equals 169. That means 2x's gives me 169, but I just want to know what 1x would give me. So I'm going to take the square root of each. So I'm just going to go ahead and square root the 169. The square root of 169 is 13. But since I don't know if the 13 was 13 times 13 or negative 13 times negative 13, my final answer is going to be plus or minus 13. And that's it. What if I gave you x squared equals negative 49? Well, I'm going to take the square root of negative 49. Now, can I have a negative 49 as a square root? No, I can't. Whenever you get a negative here inside the square root sign or inside the radical, this is no real solutions. And that's what you're going to put as your answer. Okay? Let's say you have x squared equals 121. All right, again, we're going to take the square root. Square root of 121 is going to give me the answer plus or minus 11. And last one. Let's say you have x squared equals 0. So we're going to take the square root of 0, and since 0 is neither positive nor negative, the answer is just 0. It doesn't get the plus or minus with it. All right, so let's go ahead and work out some problems here. I have a problem here where we have x squared plus 7 equals 7. Now I want to get the x squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 7, where these cancel, and now my x squared is by itself, and I have 7 take away 7, which is 0. I'm going to take the square root of 0, which just tells me that x is going to equal 0. All right. Let's try this problem. We have 16 x squared minus 49 equals 0. Again, I want the one with the x squared by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and add the 49 so I can get this x squared by itself. These cancel, giving me 16x squared equals 49. All right, now my x squared is still attached to this 16, which I need to get rid of. To get rid of it, I'm going to divide by 16. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. These cancel, and now I have x squared equals 49 over 16. Okay, I'm going to take the square root. I'm going to take the square root of this whole thing, which just means I'm going to square each of these individually. The square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 16 is 4. But not to forget your plus or minus with your answer. Okay? You have 100 x squared plus 49 equals 0. All right, just like the last problem, we want to get that x squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 49 this time. All right, these cancel, and I get 100 x squared equals negative 49. I want to get that x squared by itself, so I'm going to divide by 100. And this cancels. And now I have x squared equals negative 49 over 100. I'm going to take the square root. Oh, but very quickly I see that I cannot have a negative square root, even if it's just one of them. So automatically, game's over. This is no real solutions. Cannot have a negative square root. What if it's written with a type of factoring? Well, let's try that. We have x minus 5 squared equals 16. All right. Well, that's basically going to be, if I square root this, means I'm just going to take one of them. So let's just take one, which is x minus 5. If I square root the 16, that's going to set it equal to 4. Let's just find out real quick what one of these x's will equal just by moving the 5 over here. And my x equals 9. Okay? But since it's plus or minus 4, this is if it was a positive 4. What if that was a negative 4? So, of course, we have to do both because these are plus and minus. So we're going to do negative 4, which allows me to add 5 again. And x in this case would equal 1. So my two answers here would be 9 and 1. All right, well, I hope this helps. What if you get one that is not a perfect square and it says to round? Well, that means something like this. We have x squared equals 15. You're going to take a calculator. Okay, and make sure your calculator has a square root symbol. All right, and I'm going to do 15 and hit that square root symbol. All right, I only want two numbers after the decimal. So I'm looking at that 7. The 2's not big enough. So I'm going to go ahead and say that my answer is x equals 3.87 plus or minus. Now, it's not a direct equal, so I should actually put the estimated equal sign there. So that would be your final answer there. Okay? Let's look at this one. We have negative 3x squared plus 90 equals 0. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract 90 to get that x squared by itself. Subtract 90. These cancel, and you get negative 3x squared equals negative 90. All right, we're going to divide by 3 so we can get the x squared by itself. So divide by negative 3 to each side. This cancels, and I get x squared equals, well, a negative and negative's a positive. 3 goes into 90 30 times. Okay, I'm going to take the square root of 30, which I can't do, so I take my calculator, and I go 30 square root, and I have 47.7. Well, that 7 there is big enough to tell that 7 to jump up. So I'm going to say it's about plus or minus 5.48. And that would be my final answer. All right, well, I hope this helps.